hold that for me, please? Thank you.
I'm going to come over there and keep it on the TV. All right. Okay. Hello, my name is Michael Johnson. This is for my class, Comms 542 for Liberty University, and this is my informative speech. Today what I'd like to talk about is a need for adolescent services. And the reason why I feel we need adolescent services for youth is because growing up, I went through a lot, and I've seen a lot growing up in Miami, Florida, and the youth in this day and age is a lot different than what it was years ago. And I used to work for the state of Missouri. I worked at an at-risk youth facility, and I dealt with a lot of youth that been through a lot in their lives, and there's a lot of things that cause it, and a lot of things that they just are grown up into, like their environment, their culture, their families, and some of them don't have a choice. So, for instance, according to Martin, 2014, he says, lifestyles in the United States were different 200 years ago. The U.S. economy was different. The livelihoods were different. Their neighborhoods were different. Their families were different. You can look at our society now and see that this is true. Everything is becoming more acceptable. Language on TV, sexuality, gay marriages, and all this stuff happening in the world. It's becoming very bad, but this is what our kids are going through. Everything now is in the palm of their hand with a phone. They didn't have this years ago, and the youth, as I was doing my research, what I've noticed is they have a bad attitude. They don't listen. They don't care at all about anything. They're involved in many risk behaviors is what we call them. And some of those risk behaviors are drugs, alcohol, tobacco, violence, sexual activities, suicide, and bullying. And, one statistic I have here, let me find it. There we go. According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, more than 12% of people in the United States, which is almost 42 million, are between the ages of 10 and 19. These adolescents are increasingly diverse and reflect the changing and racial, ethnic, socio-economic, and geographic structure of the U.S. population. Another issue that adolescents face is mental health. A major determinant of outcomes for children, youth, and their families is their mental health. Low-income children, youth, their families are disproportionately affected by mental health challenges, impairing the ability of children and youth to succeed in school and placing them at risk of involvement with child welfare and juvenile justice agencies. And this research was done by the National Center for Children in Poverty. So as you can see, there's a lot that our youth in this world go through. Mental health is one. But they're so attracted and they're so caught up in the ways of the world, which is tobacco, violence, drugs, sex, which is everything we see on TV. Everything now is in their, like I said earlier, in their phone. It's in their hand. They can look it up if they want to. There's no restrictions. A lot of parents fail at giving them restrictions. Another thing I saw in my research is, according to the Youth Risk Behavior Surveillance, results indicated that many high school students are engaged in priority health risk behaviors, which is the leading cause of death among persons between the ages of 10 and 24. That's insane. Risk behaviors. 10 to 24 years old. That's huge. Now, this survey was done 30 days before. It says 32.8% of high school students nationwide has texted while they drove. How many accidents do you guys hear or see of on the news of people texting and driving? 38.7% drink alcohol. That's a huge percentage. 23.1% use marijuana. I don't know about you, but if that was my little kid, oh, I'd be mad. During the 12 months before the survey, 32.8 students has been in a physical fight. 20.1% had been bullied on school property. 7.8% had attempted suicide. That's a big percentage considering the fact that everything else might be big, but suicide's huge involving our youth. And many of the high school students nationwide are engaged in sexual risk behaviors, including STDs, HIV infection, and it shows that 18.1% of high school students has smoked cigarettes. 7.7% use smokeless tobacco. These are high schoolers. Some of them even said in middle school. This is according to Eaton, which is a part of the Youth Risk Behavior Surveillance Team. It's huge. There's such a need. These kids go through so much. There has to be some kind of service that we could provide for them. When I worked for the state of Missouri, that's what we did. We provided second chance for them to get cleaned up, to get the help they need. And of course, some of them don't listen, but that's just part of our life. You know, another big one that we face is bullying. And I've learned through research that bullying is not only physical, but it's electronic too. I didn't really know that. You know, I was like, oh, who listens to that stuff? But according to the Youth Risk Assessment Survey, data shows between 9th through 12th graders, 9.2% bullied in person and electronically, that they were the ones doing it. 10.8% were bullied in person, 6.8% were bullied only electronically, and the other 73% were uninvolved. But that means they knew about it and did nothing. So as you can see, there's a number of youth who are being bullied. You can see that the statistics show that something needs to happen. We need to develop some kind of service for these youth. It's not enough that them just going to school and hearing someone speak once a month or something. We need to provide some kind of service for them to be protected of smoking, bullying, drugs, alcohol, sexual activity, which even though it's natural and a lot of this may be the cool and fun stuff to do, we have to provide some kind of service because there's a need. You can see that these kids are crying out not only for attention, but they do things out of love, depending on where they grew up. You know, they fight because they don't have a family who fights for them. They don't have someone that loves them. They do alcohol to fit in. They do drugs to fit in. They have sex with people because that's their way of showing love. That's the only way they know. So as you can see, there's a need. A study done showed the amount of youth involved in being a part of a gang is another big statistic. 46%. 46% show that they were affiliated with the gangs, but 17% showed they were actually part of a gang. I don't know about you, but that's too much of a big percentage for me. That's just too much. 46% showing they're affiliated. That's how I was growing up in Miami, Florida. I was very close to joining a gang, but I knew all the gangs, and they all knew me. You know, you grew up down there too. It's crazy. A study by the Rapid Assessment of Adolescent Preventative Services was done to identify the behaviors of adolescent social problems. It was a 21-question screening between the ages of 11 and 14. And it showed that Such as you have driven a car drunk or high or texting, riding in a car, have seriously thought about killing yourself or tried to kill yourself, or was cut, or tried to cut, or carried a weapon to protect yourself. All of them answered yes. That's crazy. That shows me that what are we doing to help them? If this statistics and the results show that this many kids between 11 and 14 are already thinking of suicide, cutting themselves, texting while riding in the car, or taking a car that doesn't even belong to them and driving it and doing all this crazy stuff, I don't know about you, but something needs to be done. I'm going to do one more statistic for you, and that's going on with the mental disabilities, the mental disorders that are involved with youth. That's another big issue. And according to the NCSA, which is the National Survey of Adolescent Mental Health, the results showed 43.5% had a 12-month mental disorder, which means it's constant. They have it every year. It means it's part of them. And they get checked every year. 18.1% of it was mood disorders. 9.5% were impulse control disorders. 8.9% were substance abuse disorders. 3.8% was any kind of disorder. 37.3% of it was moderate, and the other 43.7% was mild. According to all this research, this just shows why we need something to help our youth. That there has to be more of a need than what we're doing now in America, and hopefully the world. We need something to happen. All the results are there, all the statistics show that there's a need, and we have to do something. Again, I thank you guys for being here. I thank you guys for taking the time to listen. There's all the information. If you guys have any questions or anything afterwards, let me know, and I'll be glad to show you. Thank you.